I'm Nate Feltman, CEO and publisher of IBJ Media, and I'm excited today to be joined by Dave Calabro, one of the most recognizable voices in Indiana sports media. Dave's career spans more than 3 decades on television and 4 decades at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He joined WTHR TV Channel 13 in 1992 and retired from the station at the end of 2024. After 32 years, he worked as a track announcer at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway since 1985, and he continues in that role today. In 2022, Calabro was inducted into the Indiana Sports Writers and Sportscasters Association Hall of Fame, and he's won many Emmy Awards for his great reporting. In 2025, the 500 Festival recognized Dave as a broadcast icon in the AES 500 Festival Parade. Today, I am thrilled to announce the launch of a new podcast with Dave called IBJ Media's Playmakers with Dave Calabro, a new podcast hosted by Dave on IBJ Media's podcast network.
I'm going to say, all right, I can't wait. That's fantastic.
Let's
news
do this.
right there, yeah.
Dave will go behind the scenes with some of the most recognizable names in sports. In each episode, he'll tell the untold stories of what makes these sports figures tick, pivotal moments in their careers, and what they do beyond sports. New episodes will publish twice a month. You can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. So, Dave, I'm looking forward to talking to you about this and getting this thing launched.
This is cool.
After 32 years at WTHR and a retirement at the end of 2024, what made this the right moment to launch a new podcast with IBJ Media?
Well, first off, thank you. You're making me feel really old with all that things you're reading about, how old I am, what a My wife said, you need to find something to do. No, that's not exactly. I love to tell stories. I've been retired about a year and a half, and I started thinking about things that I miss about my job. I did television for like 39 years, and this, here and elsewhere. And I always loved telling stories, and I love the stories behind the stories. I like the X's and O's and the games, but I always was more intrigued about the personalities and getting behind the scenes and getting to know the AJ Foyts, the Marios, the Peyton Mannings, and what are they really like? And so I was in the off season thinking, what would be fun to do? And started thinking about podcasting. I'm like, well, that'd be kind of cool to do some of the icons and big business names and sports personalities. And I hit you up on social media and said, hey, you never met before. Let's go to breakfast. I've always been a fan of the IBJ. I love the work that you all do at the quality, the quantity of the people that are involved. There's nothing like that. And so I was like, oh, this could be kind of fun. So here we are launching this.
Yeah, we're
idea.
excited to launch with you. The first thing I always think about when I think of Dave Calabro, I think of a helicopter involved. So maybe we do an episode on a helicopter with Friday night high school football.
That was a lot of fun, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. You made it fun. You made it incredibly fun. So, what do you think podcasting will allow you to do that's a little different from maybe other reporting that you've done?
Yeah, well, with television, the deadlines are incredible. For us to be sitting in this relaxed atmosphere and having a more relaxed conversation, totally different than the environment I worked in. Usually you're catching athletes, height of success or the lowest point of their career, and it's a quick moment. And the chances to really dig deep and tell their stories, really hard to do in that format I was working in before. So I think this is going to be fascinating for me to be able to sit down with somebody, not worry about the clock, have a real conversation, be able to ask follow-up questions and ask some probing questions, that, might be a little uncomfortable, but I think it'll make it fun for me and for them too.
It's going to be fun to hear some of the behind-the-scenes stories.
Yeah.
And I know you'll pull out of these interviews and things we don't know about these well-known athletes and sports figures, and I'm sure you're going to learn. We'll learn together some things about the sports business as well, which of course IBJ loves to report on. So I can't wait for you to get started.
Well, you think about all the things that are coming up with the Final Four and your involvement in the Final Four and Indianapolis. We've got the NFL Combine coming up. Then you roll into all the issues coming up in the spring about, hey, what's Carly Ursay-Gordon thinking about? What are the Colts going to do?
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's May. Got this little race going on in May. Roger Penske celebrating his 60th anniversary in racing.
Unreal.
I want to sit down with him and pick his brain about everything he's been through and the future of the Indianapolis 500 and the IndyCar Series. What's going to happen with Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers? What's that situation?
And are the Hoosiers going to repeat?
And what about the Indiana Hoosiers?
Can't let that one go.
Can't let that go. Yeah, and the stories behind the stories. Kind of what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, excited for that. So I want to go back. You mentioned the Speedway, the track, and Penske. You started back, as I mentioned in the intro, you started with WTHR in 1992, but you always had one foot in at the Speedway, going, I think, all the way back to 1985, if I got that right.
Yeah.
How did those experiences kind of shape the way you think about storytelling now, and how do those experiences in general kind of impact you?
Well, I was a kid at Ben Davis High School, and I was doing radio, and I was my brother worked in radio in town here, and he wasn't a big race car guy. I was. So I was getting interviews and getting the behind the scenes, and I started learning about, and I would tell my friends about, did you know this about A.J. Foyt? And did you know this? And I found that people had a lot of interest in that, and that kind of became my hook in my broadcasting at Channel 13, was trying to do the stories behind the stories, I go down the list of different people that I've, gone to Peyton Manning, went to his high school and did some stuff with him about the meaning of his education, and, just go down the list of people through the years, the Jim Neighbors, the Reggie Waynes, the Reggie Millers, it goes on and on and on. So that kind of lit my fire to tell more stories, and that's kind of the direction I want to go with this podcast.
So you've been covering, of course, Indiana sports and people for decades. Talk about what you kind of learned through that time period, especially about Hoosiers and the people from Indiana. And a lot of these folks who come to Indiana maybe weren't born here, but they come here and they become Hoosiers. So there's something about the Hoosier way. What's your takeaways?
Well, people love Indiana once they become attached to it, and you get a little taste of it, and you think about all the people through the years who call this place home now, that could live anywhere in the world. You know what I mean? That always come back to Indianapolis. And, Hoosier hospitality. I've always said, I grew up on the West Side, and you can always tell that people who are Midwesterners, when you're out and about or you're on the road and you're just friendly to somebody and you have a conversation with somebody like, where are you from? We're from Indiana. Oh, of course you are.
Right.
You're a Hoosier. And I always said people see through, I call it the malarkey. They see through the phoniness. Hoosiers do.
That's right.
You got to be real. I always said when I was in television that, just be you.
Yep.
And that's what I hope to do in this podcast. I'm just going to be me.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the questions and have the conversations. I learned long ago from my father, was a principle, is to treat people like you want to be treated, but also we're all the same, whether you're talking to Nate Feltman, the owner and the CEO, or you're talking to, Peyton Manning, or, name the celebrity, we're all the same.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially here in Indiana. We're Hoosiers, and that's always been my approach with athletes.
Yeah.
I try to be fair. I will always try to be fair with them. Like Peyton Manning was talking about his rookie year, and he had a game where he was really bad. I won't bring up all the stats, how bad it was, but I was on the Sports Jam, our Sunday night show, and I was kind of, saying, hey, I don't know if this is going to work out with this young quarterback. He said, he's not very good. And Peyton was talking about being in his apartment and seeing me on TV carving him up. And he said he always respected me because I spoke the truth. And that's kind of how I always try to carry myself.
That's a good compliment.
Yeah.
That's the right compliment. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So like Peyton Manning, you've interviewed a lot of superstars in sports, but also everyday people in extraordinary moments and who've accomplished big things. What story, if there is one, do you remember that really, really stands out, or a person or interview really stands out over your 30-plus year career?
I get asked that a lot about who was the coolest interview you ever did. And I always say, well, I've been so lucky and blessed. I said, it's kind of like a guy who's been eating ice cream my whole life. I've had every flavor of ice cream there is. And that's why I retired. I got kind of burnt out on all of it. But, I got to go to Jim Neighbors' house in Maui and spent 2 days in Maui at his beautiful place. He owned a mile of shoreline.
Wow.
And getting to know people like that, going to A.J. Foyt's house and opening up A.J.'s freezer. And he had steaks and ice cream was what AJ had. That's all he had.
That's pretty good.
Going to Mario Andretti's house, and he had a pet pig named Martini running around the house.
Those stand out.
Yeah, going to meet Andrew Luck for the first time at Stanford, and he rode his it's NFL Pro Day, and he showed up riding his bike. There's all these scouts, and those are the kind of things that intrigue me. Is like, well, okay, that's really. I was working the track at the Indy 500 in the booth one day, race day, and this has been about probably 10 years ago. And I turned around our booth, and there's Andrew Luck standing there in shorts and a T-shirt. And I turned the mic off. I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I rode my bike to the track today." Okay, so I enjoy the behind the scenes stories a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So going back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you followed Tom Carnegie, of course, a true legend. Around here, around the world. When you first realized that you were going to be, working with him and then eventually replacing him as the voice of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, what was that like? Was it a scary feeling or was it a surreal feeling? Talk about that.
All of that.
Yeah.
I was one of his interns at Channel 6 a million years ago, and I went out the track with him one day, and he handed me the mic, didn't even know what was going on, and he said, "I'm going to lunch with my friends." And he came back an hour later, and I'm sitting on the mic, and AJ's on the track, and Mears, and Mario practicing, and I'm nervous wreck, trying to do my announcing. And we got in the car to drive back to Channel 13, and pardon my French, but he said, "That sucked." So I thought I'd blow my opportunity to be on the PA, and then he called me a week later and asked if I could fill in. And then I became on his staff. I think it was 15 years I was on his staff.
Okay.
As like a bit character, is helping out.
Yeah.
And I went from being an intern to a coworker to a really good friend. He became part of my family. And I learned so much from him and how to deal with people and how to announce and, the use of phrases.
Did he ever tell you how he developed that voice?
No, oh my gosh.
Was that just obviously it's his voice.
It's just voice.
But it is it is iconic.
He was a king of theater. He really was. He knew when to use a pause. And that was back in the day when there were no video boards. So when you're at the track, you would hang on his every word, and he knew exactly when to pause and when to talk.
Yeah.
And he was an expert at that. He really was.
The timing is amazing, isn't
it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, but a great human being, and forever grateful for his trust in me to carry on the today. He did 61 Indy 500s.
Wow.
I'm at 40, so I got some work to do.
Well, you're a young guy, so
got some work to do.
You'll make it.
We'll see.
So I want to turn to the podcast that you're getting ready to launch. What kind of conversations do you want this to be for listeners? What how do you want a listener to feel, for example, after they listen to an episode after you do an interview?
I think most of these people that we're talking about are guys and gals who've had a dream, and they're like, "There's no way this is going to happen, but I'm going to go for it anyway." And so that's what I want people to walk away from and go, "Oh my gosh." I want it to be inspiring. I want people to realize that we all struggle, that we all have hurdles to jump over, and that there's, like right now, I'm a nervous wreck doing this because I'm normally the guy asking the questions. But I want people to walk away from it going, yeah, it was entertaining, and I learned something new, but I also realize, oh, okay, why not go for it? And I think that's kind of my hook in all of this.
Yeah, and I have a question on here, but the question is, what kind of stories are missing right now? But I feel like they're really like when the niche that we're talking about on a consistent basis. I don't think is they're out there today in a significant way. So this is something I'm incredibly excited about. We're at IBJ Media. All of us are so excited to launch with you.
Well, I'm excited too, and I appreciate you putting faith in me to give this a shot. And I hope you'll listen. I hope you'll download it. I hope you'll check it out because I think it's going to be entertaining. And if you have ideas, I love ideas. Who do you want to hear from?
Yeah.
Let me know. We can put up my email and the whole 9 yards because I want this to be interactive. I'd like people to give me feedback on what we're doing, what you like, don't like, and we'll see where it goes. I'm one of those people that I've always had this knack of asking people, for interviews.
Yeah.
I've been told no a lot. like Roger Penske, I came up with an idea about doing billboards at Channel 13. Funny story, and then I'll quit talking. What it was at Channel 13 in my younger days, I'm like, what can we do as impactful? What if I did a during the month of May called the Penske Perspective? Every night we would have somebody from Team Penske on. That's back when he had Al Unser, Al Jr., Rick Mears, the big names.
Wow.
So I called Penske at home. I got all his phone number. Barely knew him. I'd worked for him about 2 years. Called his house and I said, Roger, Dave Calabro, Channel 13, work at the PA with you. Hi, Dave. I said, I got this idea. And he goes, I'm in the middle of dinner with my wife, but go ahead. So I pitched this whole idea about doing this Penske Perspective. We'll come up with some money. We'll put 20, we'll pay 20. We didn't have any money. I said, we'll give you $20,000 for charity. And he says, oh, I love the idea. Let's do it. But don't worry about the charity part. I'm not worried about the money. So we did the Penske Perspective for 2-3 years for free. We had billboards, and people are always like, how much money did you guys pay for that? I just asked.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And that's going to be my approach to the podcast. I'm going to just ask.
Yeah.
Well, so we've got some fun people lined up already, so should be kind of fun.
Well, we can't wait to get started, and we're honored that you reached out to us because you are known, of course, throughout the state as a legendary sports reporter, and you've done iconic work in the past, and we can't wait to do more with you going forward, Dave.
That's very humbling, and thank you, and appreciate the trust.
We look forward to it.
Thank
you.
Yeah.